very good football game, tough football game. Bears really came on in the second half, just fell a little bit short.
Yeah, they sure did fall just a little short, and you're worried about them all through the first half when they ended up with, Caleb had 32 passing yards, they had 6 first downs, they're 1 for 7 on third down. They only had 71 total yards on offense, and you're wondering how are they going to attack this half-fleet defense, right, Pat? Like, how are we going to move the ball and get the points we need? And you knew the Packers had the ball coming out of the second half, so we're worried about that. And then the coaching adjustments kicked in, started running the football. Caleb heated up a little bit with Ben Johnson moving the pocket, getting him outside of the pocket. Some of those throws, unbelievable. We talked about in the pregame show, is this the best Bears quarterback we've watched in a long time? And I think we saw some of what we were talking about from Caleb. The defense came out, got a stop, but they do fall short to the Green Bay Packers. But if the league is wondering if the Bears are for real or not, I think the Bears have announced the last 2 weeks that they are for real, that they're a football team that intends to come compete and contend for this NFC North title.
Yeah, Olin, no doubt. It's disappointing the Bears lost. I think if you're a football fan and you have no rooting interest in the game, you're extremely entertained. If you're a Packers fan, you're obviously happy. If you're a Bears fan, you're ticked off that you lost. But I think what we watched there tonight, or today, it seems like night with the sun setting when it does, 2 of the best football teams in the NFC. And I'm upset the Bears lost. There's no doubt about it. But they competed their butt off, and they bounced back from a horrific first half. I mean, that was ugly. I mean, they looked like they did the first couple of weeks with all the just the execution was poor. They didn't look in sync. But credit to them to come back out the second half, stop them, like you said, go down and score, make it a ball game, fight it off until the end. And unfortunately, Olin, you and I were talking here before that, you thought Caleb was going to pull it off. I thought that call by Ben Johnson was smart. I thought it was a good play. I mean, he had Cole open. He just had to make that throw there at the end. But they fell short, and I'm disappointed. So I'm excited to see what happens in 2 weeks. I know we have the Browns next, and we can't overlook them. But it's unfortunate they lost. But I do think those are the 2 better teams in the NFC, and I'm not uncomfortable with the loss as far as continuing with the Bears going on through the season and potential in the playoffs and what they can do. I thought we saw a good football team, just fell short to another good football team.
Yeah, and I also think we saw what we keep talking about is repeatable, right? The run game,
yes,
which was bottled up in the first half, but eventually they started leaning on the Green Bay Packers front. And Mannelly, I mean, this guy, he is a physical running back. I think broke someone's helmet tonight. Tom Brady talking about that on the broadcast. Watching the right side of that offensive line start to roll off the ball a little bit. Watching Ben Johnson drop straight back against this pass rush, right? Because they were moving Parsons around, decided to put him on Jonah Jackson, gave Jonah Jackson a lot of trouble in the first half while he was walking around and going after the right guard. They know that the Bears are going to help Ozzie Trapillo with chips and sliding Tooney to him like we talked about before the game started. And so that was their adjustment. But they gets Caleb on the run. And Caleb, man, I mean, the speed he accelerates with and then makes throws on the run, finding guys on boots and what they call boots and nakeds when you get quarterbacks out of pocket. And the Packers at one point, Pat, looked like they were looking for answers to stop the Bears' run. Like they didn't know how the hell they were going to slow that run game down. I guess that would be one argument for the play that Ben Johnson did call, but I don't mind Caleb out there on the run with his legs, with Swift in the flat. They call that a slipper boot, right? Slipper boot left. And then the tight end comes over. I think it was the same play they scored on last week, really. And just a really tough football game by the Chicago Bears. Obviously, Jordan Love attacking C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Breakdown in some pass coverage, Pat, there today. I mean, I'm sure Kyler Gordon, last second not being available, affected some reps that guys got, like McLeod, when his eyes weren't good on a couple of plays. But all in all, I thought we saw what we talked about going into the game, that, look, this team does things that are repeatable, and their coaching staff is going to give them a chance to compete in a lot of football games.
Yeah, Caleb finished the game 19 for 35, 186 yards with 2 touchdowns, an interception. He was sacked once. His rating 76.6. Obviously, a significantly better second half. He had 4 carries for 15 yards. And as you say, his ability to run and to keep plays alive, we saw him kind of booting to his right. He completed a big pass to Cole Kmet at one point. I mean, you had to be fairly pleased with his performance ultimately, given how poor the first half was for the Bears.
Yeah, Mully, I would say ultimately, I was disappointed in the first half because I kind of, we did the pregame, I said, oh, I wanted to see him outplay Jordan Love. I don't think he did. Maybe you could argue it at the end if he makes that throw to Cole that you win the game, you outplay him, and you take him down in the fourth quarter and do that. But early, it wasn't pretty, and I was disappointed in the way he played. But you're right, some of those throws he made, the Zacchaeus throw and catch, I don't know how he made that catch, which is unbelievable. Then the catch, the throw to Cole rolling right. I don't understand how he gets the power on those throws when his body is in the position they are. But this, to me, guys, is another learning experience, and I hate to say it's a learning experience when your team is 9-3 or now 9-4. But hopefully, Caleb learns from that situation there with a 4th and 1 at the end of the game. You have to get the first down, either take your legs. I thought he could have had it there, or make that throw. If you want to be great, make that throw. You were drafted number 1. You're expected to be great. Make that throw. It's a learning experience. I wish he would have made it, obviously, but he didn't. But credit for them to come back and fight the way they did. But I'm still disappointed in that. Again, guys, 2 weeks from now, I think that's what we're going to be talking about. I can't wait to see this rematch in Soldier Field. But it was just disappointing to see the first half the way it was. I think the end of the game might have been different if the Bears would have played a complete game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 14-3 going in a half, right? And
yeah.
Just a pure domination by the Packers defense.
Yeah.
And you knew that the Packers were going to get the ball coming out of half. And what was Dennis Allen's adjustments going to be? And my first thought was, okay, what does this coach Ben Johnson do to get his offense rolling, right? Because you're not used to seeing a Ben Johnson offense bottled up that much because he's so good at adjustments and attacking defenses. And then he came out, I thought they were just going to try to run the ball. Instead, he just went to play action pass early on, right? And got Caleb in a little bit of a groove, got him moving outside his pocket. So I think on the broadcast, it gave you his stats or what it was rolling to the right. I think at one point he was 7 for 9 or something like that. That got him rolling a little bit. And then he started layering balls to Luther Burden over linebackers, making the throws, Pat. Like you said, he's capable of making. And that's why you challenge him, right? Like you can make that. You can make that play late in the game there. And I just really, really come away thinking, gosh, you want to win that football game. And we're all watching the game. So, okay, find a way to win it here at the end. I even was a proponent for going for 2 and just ending the damn game right there at the time if they scored a touchdown, because I just think the play calling and the quarterback is so hard to handle at some point. And you could see Michael Parsons was worn out. Their D-line was worn out. They had time of possession in the second half. The run game was rolling. The defense was doing just enough to give a couple long drives, but just enough. But final play at the end where they come up with the interception. But the Chicago Bears, I think you fan from what you've been watching over the years, and we gave all the stats of what the Packers are. Now I think Packers in that game and say, you know what? We either have the same quarterback you have, or our quarterback is just a little better.
Yeah, and guys, listen, to me, this was a defining moment for Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams. Ben Johnson gave Caleb Williams a chance to win the game. There have been games earlier in the year, that they ran the ball there in the red zone. They could have run the ball there on 4th and 1. They had 2 timeouts left. Ben Johnson said, no, young man, here you go. It's 4th and 1. I'm going to let you boot. You can either run it, you can throw it, whatever you want to do. This is your chance to win the game. And to me, that's kind of a defining moment between a coach and a quarterback, and saying, hey, this is against Green Bay, at Green Bay, 4th and 1, late in the game, late in the fourth quarter, go win the game. And unfortunately, he didn't. Maybe he'll learn from it. I hope he will in the future. But I just kind of see that as a moment now between Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams, of him kind of handing it off to him and say, hey, you're our quarterback. It's your time to win games for us.
Yeah. The other element is they really did come back strong in the second half, and they wound up dominating the time of possession for the game. They held the ball for 33 and 29 seconds to 26-31 for the Packers. Now, it was unfortunate that Green Bay was able to score seemingly as easily as they did with some of the big passes down the field.
Mhm.
That was just a really difficult element of this game to watch. But the Bears, they only committed 4 penalties for a total of 17 yards. Green Bay had 6 for 55 yards. I mean, I really thought when you look back on it, you see the Bears having 21 first downs to 17 for them. The Bears weren't able to stop them on third down, which was a big problem in the game. But the Bears were able to run the ball, dominate the clock. And I agree with what you said there, that they looked exhausted by the end of that game. They looked flat out tired. When you see Micah Parsons standing on the sideline because he's gassed, that tells you a little something. That's how you get people's respect.
Mhm. Yeah, I think they know that the Packers know that they were in a dogfight, and the Bears almost came there and did shit on their field, right? They almost came there and ended the game late in the game, and they were running. A lot of times, big downs right over the right side, obviously over Darnell Wright and Jonah Jackson, and there was a play there where Colson Loveland was blocking one-on-one on Micah Parsons, which you'd like to see. Then the Chicago Bears went out there and competed, and obviously, like Pat's saying, you want to see Caleb Williams make that play there and throw the ball to the back of the end zone and give Cole Kmet a chance to make that catch, right? But the Packers obviously come out. Kasheem Nixon obviously gets the interception that ends the game, but they come out, they fight, like you're saying, Mully, they flip the game basically on its head, right? And what does everyone always talk about, Pat? They talk about coaching adjustments coming out of second half when you see something like that. When's the last time you saw something like that from the Chicago Bears where you went in at half? Things didn't look good at all for your offense, and they flipped it on them. And all of a sudden, they got the Packers on their heels. But like Mully's saying, the Packers are going down the field. Also, they went on a 5-yard drive for 4 minutes and 28 to take the lead to 28-21, and that's a 2-yard touchdown route in there by Jacobs, who we talked about in pregame. He would be a tough guy to stop, but really, the two top teams of the NFC North here put on a show today. A good football game. You never want to take this like we'll be happy with the loss because of the way we look. You never want to take that, but the Chicago Bears keep proving to us that they have things on film that is repeatable week in and week out, and they can take on the road or come home with and compete.
Olin, that's 100% true because, like, as a player and a fan, I'm disappointed, right? You want them to beat the Packers, but as an analyst, and you break it down kind of in a fair way, we saw two really good football teams play. I was impressed with who the Chicago Bears are. Ben Johnson talked about they want to play their best football in December. They are getting better. They lost to a darn good football team, in my opinion. I thought Dennis Allen's game plan, blitzing, that's who he is, right? They lost a little bit on a big plays. It hurt them. But in the end, if you're just looking at this team, at the Bears team, they are a good football team. We're not talking about the teams we've seen in the past. They have potential. The growth they've gone through from week 1 and 2 to where they are now. This loss feels obviously way different than what we saw against Minnesota and Detroit. So I'm disappointed. There's no doubt about it. You always want to beat the Packers, but I'm also looking at through the lens of evaluating this team of who we are really and who we can be and what can we be going forward. And I'm encouraged. That's hard to say when you lose to the Packers, but they're a good football team and they lost to a better football team today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a strange kind of game, and I think, Olin, you touched on the idea that that Kyler Gordon pulled his groin muscle again in the pregame. That is just so disappointing, and almost a reminder to the fact that Jalen Johnson hasn't played much this year, and he's out there and he's working hard, trying to get back. TJ Edwards just got back for this game. He's missed a lot of time this year. It just reminds you when you see someone suffer an injury, get back on the field, and then go down in pregame warmups when it's whatever it was, 14 degrees out or 9 by the end of the game. It's really difficult when you have soft tissue injuries to be able to play during games like that. So I think the fact that we saw as much Nick McLeod as we did, it was, you understood why some of these struggles occurred for the Bears, but you cannot give up those explosive plays, and they just gave up too many scoring plays, too many long, seemingly easy drives.
Yeah, I just think the one-on-one matchups, they got beat today, right? They lived and died by the blitz, and they couldn't get home. And that's what Jordan Love is doing. I said it in the pregame. He'll throw up the ball. You saw the one to McLeod where they had the pass interference on him, where they basically tackled him. That if they don't tackle him, that's an interception. But he's willing to go one-on-one and throw those balls up, and they weren't able to get there. A couple blown coverages that Tom Brady talked about. But that's just who Dennis Allen is. Some of the times they're going to make the plays. We've seen in all the takeaways, and sometimes they're not. And they got beat today, and it's unfortunate to see. I wish we could see more pass rush just up front with the front four. But Dennis Allen brings up these exotic blitzes, and they didn't get home today, and they got beat on the back end. And that to me was the difference in the game defensively. They struggled against Christian Watson. They struggled against Bo Melton. They just struggled against all their receivers today one-on-one, and they just couldn't stop them.
Yeah, they come out in that, I think it was 3rd and 3, right? And there's trips to the right, and they got Watson one-on-one with C.J. Gardner-Johnson. And I would argue the left tackle was down the field, but I don't want to cry after a game like that, but I would argue he was down the field on that RPO. But, the C.J. Gardner-Johnson, obviously one-on-one with Christian Watson, the guy who they had hurt last year, and he runs a slant and takes it all the way to the house. Really tough matchup. And like Mully's talking about, Johnson just coming back. Remember, Tyreek Stevenson is not out there either, right? So now you got McLeod, you got C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and obviously there is the breakdown to the Melton, right? Or where it was, I think Tom Brady said he thought Jalen Johnson should be replacing Byard in cover 2, and I'll leave that to Tom Brady and guys who understand coverage to talk about there. And it cover 2 invert, looked like they were playing there, and somebody has to obviously get that guy across the middle of the field. But like we're talking about, they're trying to create pressure, Pat. Right? We're talking about where would the pressure come from today from the Chicago Bears. I thought Grady Jarrett was pretty disruptive most of the game, but obviously on the edge, not much from Austin Booker or Montez Sweat today, harassing a quarterback. I know they had that 1 sack, but I think if you count from the time the ball was snapped to the sack, it was almost 4 seconds. So a mistake there by Jordan Love before the interception, right? I think it was C.J. Gardner-Johnson who actually got the interception too. A bad throw there by Love. But just to your guys' point, way too many big plays, way too many explosives for them, too many breakdowns on the back end, and just missing some guys getting healthy, Mully.
No doubt. And Jordan Love, we talk about Caleb, but Jordan Love finished 17 of 25, 234 yards, 3 touchdowns. He had the 1 interception, 1 by Sweat. His passer rating is 120.7. That's a significantly good passer rating, but I didn't feel like he got explosive plays, but I didn't feel like that was the reason that the Bears lost necessarily. I feel like it was just they struggled defensively against that big play offense, and there's not.
I feel like they just lost the one-on-ones. I mean that's what it was. It wasn't Jordan Love, making miraculous throws. It was guys getting beat one-on-one, and they were just open. I don't think that Jordan Love outplayed Caleb astronomically. I just think it was a couple of those plays the receivers just for.
Yeah, I think that, a couple of things Jordan Love did well was obviously handle the blitz, right? I think on their first touchdown pass to Watson, he recognized that it was going to be blitz 0, and he called Ridge, which looked like it was their max protection out of nickel, and got himself protected and realized that Watson was going to be one-on-one in the end zone for the touchdown. So those are the things that obviously he had more games played than Caleb, and those are the things he did well today. Finding the explosive plays, finding a way to score of a depleted Bears secondary, obviously. So obviously you win the game, and you guys say, look, man, I mean, you were the better team today, but we saw that what we saw from Caleb in the first half. And I think the thing we're all waiting for out of Caleb is a complete game, right? A game that from start to finish, that he is executing like he did in the second half, right? I'd be interested to hear his comments about what he thought happened in the first half. You know, that first drive. I mean, you were wondering, like, I think Brad Biggs actually texted me, said, "Did that ball get tipped on third down?" I said, I didn't see it get tipped because it was so inaccurate, right? The first 2 or 3 throws were so inaccurate and just
Yes.
really struggling on offense to get anything. Find the details in the pass game that Ben Johnson was talking about. They got rolling in the second half, but if you put a complete game together there, who knows what happened?